I feel like the further along that I've gotten in anything, the more lessons I realize are universal. Like,
Hmm.
so whether we're talking about bodybuilding, whether we're talking about motorcycles, whether we're talking about, drawing, for instance, or art, there are so many parallels. And so the cool thing is like for all of our listeners who are doing things in their own private life right now, I bet you can recognize principles that you can apply in other areas of your life. What's up? Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Life Inner Show podcast, where we help people make more, work less, and live better lives. And anything in relation to any of those three topics is valid for the podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. We also have Polish Peter as the co-pilot here on the podcast. What's up, dude?
So dude, man, I figure we shoot this episode because every single person I think in the world has this annoying friend. They keep bringing up this specific topic. They just keep talking about it over and over and over and over and over again. And you got to sit there and listen to him. But on the serious side, well, I do have a friend like this. And this friend is, I'm not going to mention any names, but they're on this podcast. And they keep talking about this motorcycle. And they're just
is this like you talking about your hair all the time?
Dude, people are not going to believe that, okay? Don't even go. They're not going to believe that I'm talking about my hair.
Okay.
But they will believe that you talk about the motorcycle. So figure we jump on here and pull out some real powerful lessons out of this motorcycle journey that you got going on. As you can see, he probably crashed about 14 times again. Just look at his face. I mean, that's got to be crashed a few times.
But no other explanation for this mug.
Yeah. So listen, let's get in this episode and talk about what are some life lessons that we can actually use for our businesses and our life out of this particular journey that you got going on.
Well, dude, and like before we get into it, I want to pause here because I feel like the further along that I've gotten in anything, the more lessons I realize are universal. Like, so whether we're talking about bodybuilding, whether we're talking about motorcycles, whether we're talking about, drawing, for instance, or art, there are so many parallels. And so the cool thing is like for all of our listeners who are doing things in their own private life right now, I bet you can recognize principles that you can apply in other areas of your life. And if maybe you just never stepped back enough to recognize it. And so what Peter's referring to is like, about 2 years ago, I got introduced back into motorcycles. It had been over 20 years since I've been on a bike, and I had a fortuitous introduction, started a friendship with a guy who's a pro rider. And so this past weekend, I went back out to the track, which was actually the first track I went to when I got back into riding. And it's funny because I shared the story on an earlier podcast where that first time out there, dude, every single that first time out there, the first time I got back out there a couple of years ago, every single person passed me. I was fighting for my life. I'm like, this sucks. What am I doing? Like, I'm an idiot.
You're on tricycle wheels.
Oh, dude, it was, I had training wheels on. It was awful. Yeah. And so I went back to this track and there was a little bit of apprehension for me going here because my buddy wasn't able to go. I had some other friends who were there, thankfully. That was really helpful. But like, my buddy who I went there the first time with, who kind of really showed me the ropes, wasn't there, and I'm on my own. And I had I wouldn't call it a terrible experience, but it certainly was, it left a little bit of a scar, like on how slow I was and how scared I was.
From the first time.
Yeah. So I go out to the track, dude. And first of all, my first session out there, I have a control rider. These are the guys who kind of like ride around the track and make sure that everyone's safe and that you can kind of like follow them around and do kinds of stuff. He's like, hey man, like you're doing really good. You keep it up and you'll be able to probably bounce up to the next class, the next group, which is a faster group, the intermediate group. Because I'm in the novice group, by the way. And please listen, God, I am not fast. Let me just clarify that right now. So please don't take it this way. And so another guy comes up to me, dude, and another control rider, and he's like, he taps his tail on his bike. This is the next session, which means like follow me. And I follow this guy, and dude, and I didn't realize this. Later, I was talking to my buddy Dave about this, and this guy's name was Jojo, which I know you're gonna always say something about because like you always say Wojo's Jojo. Yeah. So it was fate.
I don't have to. You already said it.
It was fate. It was fate. So Jojo is towing me around the track, which basically means you're following them as close as you can.
Jojo's towing Bojo?
Yeah, that was it. That was totally it. I know you're dying right now, dude. Like your face is so red from laughing. So like, he's towing me around the track, but dude, so towing him, by being towed by him, bro, I had my fastest lap time. It was a minute 40.56. I have a lap timer. And I go into the paddock later, the pit, and I'm telling my buddy about it. His name's Dave. And he's like, dude, like, I'm like, he's like, that's really fast. That's fast for an intermediate. You're only a couple seconds away from advanced. But without this guy towing me around, without him showing me what, because by the way, when someone's towing you, when they're in front of you, number one, I'm focused on him. Like I'm looking at him and I'm like, well, if he's going this fast, I can go this fast. Like if he can lean over his bike that much, I can lean over my bike that much and not crash. You know what I mean? And everything just changes, and I'm just focused on staying on him.
So you're not focusing on yourself.
No. Well, dude, by myself, my best lap time was like 145. And I had, 145, and I even had something that's slower than that. And so this guy, just by following him, made a 5 second difference, which by the way, in racing is like two worlds apart. Right. And so
Yeah.
it was really stunning to me, the difference of having somebody show you what to do.
Yeah, so that was a big lesson right there. I want you guys to consider, think about it this way. Like in this particular scenario, we started focusing on someone else ahead of him, right? Who he looked up as an expert to that person, right? Someone who's been ahead of time, right? Ahead of him. And he's focusing on him and following what he's doing. All of a sudden, he stopped thinking so much about himself, trying to do it right on his motorcycle, try to, do certain way. I got to pay attention to this, pay attention to that. And what ended up happening by him focusing on the rider in front of him, all of a sudden he ended up going faster, right? And
Yeah.
probably, I would say you, in a way, end up being safer in a way too.
Well, yeah, I'm following he's showing me the exact race line. I'm seeing when he's tipping in. I'm seeing when, you know what I mean? Like I can see when he's accelerating because he starts pulling away from me. So I know that's where he accelerated, right? And so he's basically giving me the blueprint. And it's just, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what by the way, I wasn't thinking this then. I thought of this later because in that moment, I'm thinking of staying alive. Right.
Yeah.
But later I realized, like, man, there's such a value in somebody that can help you and lead you and who's further ahead than you. And this is exactly what we do in Life and Air. Like having a coach, having somebody who is able to kind of show you the right path to save you, from going off the line, from going off into the grass, like into crashing. And so like, it was just such an analogy, man. The other thing that really struck me is like, when I'm focused on him, like you said, versus like the track, like if you're just looking at the track, like, and by the way, I was at that speed, I was passing everybody, like everybody I was passing. Now, there was one rider who,
I want to ask you about the rider next, but
yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like weaving, I just blowing by people. And it wasn't me necessarily. It was like, just grabbing onto this and going. Now, the other thing here that I realized is, although my main man, Calvin wasn't there, my buddy Dave and Zeb were there. And so like Zeb runs a motorcycle shop and he's close to where I live. And so I'm like, dude, like he probably could see I was a little nervous. I was there by myself. And he's like, hey man, like, and by the way, it's a brand new motorcycle, brand new. It was the first time riding it. Sold my old bike. And, he's like, tell me he's like, yeah, do this, do that, do that. How does it feel? He adjusted he's like, at the first session, I'm like, dude, it feels really bouncy on the front end. Excuse me. And he's like, let's adjust the rebound. So he comes out and adjusts the forks for me. And he's like, how does that feel? He tested that. And he's like, hey, how does this feel? And how does that feel? He made adjustments on the bike for me. He helped me get the tire pressure correct. And he helped me get the generator, like all this stuff. And then Dave, this other super cool guy that works at the shop, actually, like he's a control rider and he's telling me stuff and he's giving me tips and he's also like contributed in. So this made me think of like, the mastermind, right? Of like your peers kind of, that are helping you as well. It's this community, right? Of people that can pour into you. And so like Zeb and Dave are helping me out. And it's just super cool, man.
Right. Because here's the thing, I think in my own particular journey too, as an entrepreneur, I've learned this while being in Life and Air, you can't do this by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. You got to have people around you to help you in some shape or form get to the next level, right? And sometimes it's you get that one specific person who helps you basically, make sure that your tires are inflated in the right particular pressure, right? That's all he does. That's his own thing, right? But you got to have other people who come alongside of you to help you get to the next level. And I think entrepreneurs fall into this trap all the time that I got to do it myself, you know?
Totally.
So I think that's a huge lesson. Okay. One thing I want to ask you to, let's talk about this other writer that was you guys going back and forth between each
Yeah.
other. That person was passing you were passing them. How important is it? Doesn't matter that that person is there.
Well, dude, like so by the way, on a bike, it's kind of like it's fun to pass people. It is like you're like, haha, I gotcha. And then you see them coming up on you and you're like, dang it, like they caught me. And we're having some fun with it. It was fun. It was like a fun competition, which we have in life in our too, like fun competition. We enjoy pushing each other to be better. And come to find out later, my buddy Dave, the guy I was telling you about, is a control rider, and he was towing this rider around and helping them out. Come to find out, dude, it was like 100-pound girl, like a young girl, on a
Kicking your
bike that,
butt.
yeah, like, and I was like, and by the way, and he said, he's like, man, he's like, oftentimes women are better listeners and they learn faster than guys because they don't
Did you
have the
just say
same.
that on this podcast publicly?
Dude,
The women
he
are
said
better
this.
listeners than men?
He's like women make quicker progress usually because they listen, because they're coachable, because he's like, I'll tell her these things to do and she'll do them. The guys will be like, oh yeah, and then they just go do their own thing. Like, and by the way, take the gender out of it for a second. Like just that principle alone of being teachable, right? What a difference it can make. And he was like saying, he's like, dude, this girl's like, this is literally like her fifth track day, and she's been through a couple trainings, and she invested in herself, and she like got the help from mentors, from coaches, and now here she is, relatively quickly up to speed, and she was right there. She was getting bumped up too, like, and so like she was fast, man, really fast.
So does it matter that you have a rider that's competing with you to help you get to the next level?
I thought it was fun. Yeah, I thought it fun. It's fun. It kind of pushed me a little bit, but not in a like I want to beat you way, but like, hey, I want to be better and have some fun with this. And so like I think being around other people that now this is an interesting level, man. Sorry, interesting observation is like I thought about this for a second because here I am in this novice class and I'm passing everybody. And then when they mentioned, hey, and by the way, that guy Jojo, he's like, hey man, you're like one of the fastest, if not the fastest guy in this group. You probably should be in the next group. I immediately had a moment of fear internally because I'm like, oh, I kind of like passing everybody.
Right.
I don't want to get passed and like get smoked. And so there's a little bit of hesitancy there, man. Like if I'm honest, like about like, oh man, I don't want to be the slowest guy again. But like, but later Dave was like, no, man, that pace, you're still a quick intermediate. And so it was interesting though, man. What kind of influence, a negative influence, like your ego and your pride can have when it comes to growing, right? And are you in a
Right.
small pond or the large pond, right?
Right. But then the other thing is think about it this way. I think because you brought up fear and people are thinking, oh no, fear is there, right? I think that's a good thing that it shows up, right? And I think it's a thing that tells you progressing in the right direction, that you have that fear coming up because now you're going to the next level, right? Because think about it this way: fear doesn't show up in comfortable places, right?
Right, right.
Like it doesn't show up like you have to go to sleep tonight. You have to get in bed and you're like, oh man, fear shows up because you got to go to bed. No, it doesn't. You do this every single day. But now, if you were to go and let's say, go to sleep in a hammock in the middle of the mountains, you have some little bit more fear, right?
Yeah, I might get
Because
eaten by a mountain
wonder what's
lion
going to
here.
happen, right?
Right,
So
right.
the thing is, it's a natural progression. I think that people are looking at it from a negative perspective. Because think about it this way: I remember having a conversation with you back in the day when you first showed up on this track, and you had a fear, but you had a different fear, and you didn't listen to it. You kept going with it, and you moved to the next level. And if you did listen to it, you probably wouldn't be riding here this past weekend and outnumbering every single person there.
Well, man, I want to comment on that. So when I pulled off the track and was talking with this guy Jojo, the control rider, he's like, man, he's like, I gotta no, it's different. It was, sorry, the first control rider. He's like, dude, I love it. He's like, you are not afraid to get on the gas and go in and go hard in the turns. Where you're coming from 140 miles an hour down to like 30 to get through this first turn, which is a hairpin. Like, and he's like, I love that, man. He's like, that's awesome. And so that reinforced to me what you're saying. Like, man, your fear evolves depending on the level of challenge you're at. And so like my first fear like 2 years ago when I got on the bike was like just not to fall over, not to run off the track. And now like your fear escalates let me just say this. I don't think the fear ever goes away because like as you get faster and faster on a bike, you're pushing that new level of fear and a new level of discomfort. And so like one things about this track, and for instance, that is a little bit uncomfortable for me and is a great opportunity to learn and to grow is there's a lot of long sweeping turns where you're leaning the bike over pretty far and going pretty fast. And it just feels like, man, like there's not a lot of wriggle room here. Like if something
Like you're
happens,
gonna
like,
wipe?
yeah, like it's kind of scary because you're right on the edge of the tire and you're dragging a knee maybe. And like but it's not just a quick one. It's you're in there. And so what I realize is it's such a great exercise to overcome fear that could show up anywhere, dude. Whether you're gonna bench press more weight than you've ever benched before, that you're gonna be full of fear. You're gonna do something in your business that you've never done before, or that you've failed at in the past. There's gonna be fear. There, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna go ask out that girl that you've gotten rejected 8 times with somebody else, and there's gonna be fear. Like, and so you gotta find those opportunities to like, to exercise the fear muscle to overcome it because it just affects everything.
So let me ask you this. When you were following that guy, and you had, because I think I'm not sure if you mentioned on this particular podcast, but you mentioned to me that when you followed them, you had the fastest run, right?
Fastest lap time. Yep.
Fastest lap time. Were you fearful during that time, riding behind him?
It was there was some discomfort for sure because I realized like he's going quick, but more I was concerned about keeping up. Quite honestly, I was like,
So
man,
it
this
kind of
guy's
evolved, didn't it? It evolved into something else.
he
It
kind of
wasn't
took
so
my
much
mind
like
off it a
fear,
little bit. Yeah, he kind of took my mind off it a little bit, right?
right.
Like there was still some discomfort, but it wasn't like full blown fear. Like as if I was doing that on my own, I would have felt like I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants and I'm just like totally out of control.
So that guy actually ahead of you helped you overcome some of that fear, but
Oh, for
with
sure.
inadvertently,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Totally.
Because
Yep.
you were no guy. So my next question I have, because I think this is important to in my own walk. One of the things that you brought up to me multiple times is the sport of so many different things that go into the bike. I mean, if you go from your kinds of a bike to the professional bikes, I mean, you mentioned to me like professional bikes that can be up to $1 million kind of thing just for the bike because so many different things are in there, right?
Oh yeah.
You talked to me about, when it comes to your bike, like, warming the tires, like they warm up the tires at the beginning. I mean, there seems like there are so many little nuances that are part of the game kind of a thing in order to do this, right? And the thing that pops into my head, I want to ask you this question is that doing it on the cheap way versus doing it on the, call it the I don't know, the right way or the, having those, how important is it to have those, let's say, having the tire warmers on a bike? Because I
Yeah.
could go and let's say not do it at all, right? Or I can go and I don't know, rub the tires really fast so they warm up. I don't know. Or actually get the tire warmers, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
versus doing it cheap versus doing it and investing in yourself, investing in those things that how much important is for you to progress and be successful in what you're doing. Talk to
Dude,
me about that.
yeah. So you mentioned investing in yourself as well. So before I mention the bike, I do want to say this. Like, and actually, it's kind of funny. I'm wearing the shirt right now. If you're watching YouTube, I went to the Yamaha Champ School.
I just want to point out that I'm the one wearing the right shirt here.
I know,
Okay.
man. Right.
Yeah.
I'm still buzzing from the weekend. That's why. Um, but I've taken training. I've gone to classes. I've attended boot camps, and these things aren't cheap, by the way. This Yamaha school was like $3,500. I want to say, maybe 4 grand. I don't remember. It was a lot. And so, but investing, like, what's the alternative? You don't invest, and then you crash, or you take 5 years to do what you could do in like 5 months, right? Like, so when you really compare like the investment in yourself versus trying to do it yourself, I think it's cheaper, it's easier, it's faster, it's less painful to get the help. So that's the investing in me side of things. Now you mentioned the bike. So the thing with the bike, dude, is like I have racing slicks on there, which means it has no tracks, no treads, right? It's just all rubber. And you go
Like
out
you're
there,
talking about the tire.
the
For
tires, yeah.
someone who's listening,
They're
what does
called
that
racing
mean?
slicks, yeah.
So it's a tire
It's just a
thing.
blank, bare tire. It's just all rubber. Um, and you have to heat these things up. Now, listen, those tires aren't cheap, and guess what? Like neither are tire warmers. And by the way, you need a way to 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 run those tire warmers. And if there's not an outlet available, which this track did not, you need a generator. So that's not cheap either. So you are investing here to make this happen. But the again, like you need to have all these things like on a bike. And this isn't a metaphor, right? We're talking about a metaphor here, but like think of the bike as almost part of you and investing in yourself. So for instance, you need a steering damper, which is so that your handlebars don't shake back and forth at high speeds. And so there's $500 for that in the mount. And then you need a lap timer because like you got to know if you're making progress, and that's another $500. And like you just all these things add up though. But if you're gonna be serious and you want to get now, listen, if you just kind of want to go out and putt around like and go slow and kind of just like dilly dally around, you don't need all this stuff. But if you want to kind of push it and if you want to like excel and and be safe and get results quicker, you got to kind of make the investment, man. And it's for safety, it's for results, it's like it's to shortcut, your learning curve. Like you mentioned, tire warmers. Now on a warm day, you could now, and by the way these track days work is you got a 20-minute session. And if you could go out there on racing slicks and go super slow, for a bunch of laps, and eventually they'd probably warm up. I don't know. Or you could just have them ready to go right from the start, and you peel off those tire warmers the second they call third call for your class, and you go out to the track and your tires are blistering hot, so they stick a whole lot better. That's the reason why you need to warm up your tires is because they stick. Otherwise, you'll slide right out because there's no traction. And so I think these are all requirements, really, if you're looking to kind of like do it for real.
So I get a few lessons out of this. One, the bike. Think about it this way. The bike is a vehicle for what you want to accomplish. For you, it's literally a vehicle, right? But think about it this way. Every single person in the world, whether it's a business, is your vehicle. Whether real estate investing, like the houses are your vehicle. Whether it's whatever that thing that you're doing is your vehicle to help you get where you want to be. And
that's a great observation, dude. I like that, man.
Yeah. It's not just a pretty face over here, okay? So that's one. Second thing is, you mentioned this, by investing in yourself, it creates a safety for you. And I think that's a big misconception for a lot of people when they're looking at from the perspective of someone who has a high need for certainty is, I don't want to invest into this, invest into that, because there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think this is a backwards thinking, because what you just said, by investing in yourself and learning, or in that vehicle that you're going after, or in yourself, you're actually, by doing that, you're creating that certainty that you're looking for, right? For some people.
Because think about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
Well, dude, I love what you're saying, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just getting excited here, like, because look at, like, you could be like, hey, like, my helmet by itself costs $1,000, like, and so, but to your point,
protecting
like,
that, really? I mean,
what happened? But dude, like, I love what you're saying, man, because it's so true. Is because like you're actually creating the unsafe environment and the risk for yourself by not in making the investment.
Right. And that actually, the investment will help you not only grow, because guess what? But, whether it's those classes that you mentioned, right? It helps you figure out how to make the turns and things like that, or whatever it might be. So you're helping yourself grow. Then you step up into another classes. You put the community around you. Because, by the way, did you know any of these people before you started racing, or you starting to get to know them more and more when you're in that environment?
No, it's when I got in there.
Right. So you start to get to know these people. By investing in that, you actually end up creating more certainty for yourself to the next level. And that's the stepping ladder, just the next thing, the next thing, and next thing, next thing, next thing, right? But most people are so afraid to get to that because they feel like there's so much uncertainty in that, or whatever it might be, that stops them from advancing to the next thing. The other lesson that I heard too is, you mentioned that girl. I think you said she had 4 lessons, right? And she's teachable and all this stuff. And she's kicking butt. And I find this a lot of times in my own coaching. There's certain students who literally, between the retreats, would do unbelievable results, because what they do is they just go full out, right? They don't ask their questions like, I can't do this or whatever. They just like, tell me what to do or whatever it might be, and they just go and do it. And I have one student in particular right now that in my mind that, he does that. And he seems like he's going 100 miles an hour, right? And he makes a tremendous progress. Other students takes them a little longer, right? And everybody has their own speed that they're going after their life. But depending how fast you want to get there, I think in that analogy, dude, if you're going 50 miles an hour on the track, you're going to get there in a certain time versus when you're going 100, 120,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's another great analogy. Any other lessons that you got out of this that
Well,
will be helpful?
one more thing I want to mention here with the girl who is giving me a run for my money. Um, and the only reason I mentioned that she's a female is because this is this is a male dominated sport for the most part. And so I actually loved it that it was a female because this just highlights like just because you don't fit the bill of like what it traditionally looks like to be successful or
Right.
you have all these traits or characteristics you should be you should already be a superstar or you have all the things like you it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter like we're looking at like 100-pound woman who's just crushing guys. And it was awesome. It was fun to be a part of that, and I'm actually super excited for her because like don't let people tell you what you can and can't do just because you don't fit the stereotypical like
Right.
success story and have all this awesome thing like said like it doesn't matter. It does not matter. And so that's another thing. That's why I love that so much, man. It was awesome. It was a great experience. Like, and I hope.
Yeah.
Do you got anything else, man? Because like I think that summarizes like most of my experience.
So I got one more for you. I'm gonna ask you. So the guy told you that you can step up into intermediate kind of a
Yeah.
thing. What are your thoughts now?
Dude, and bring it now, man. Like I wanna because I realize here's the thing too. How fast am I gonna get if I stay as a novice? Like, am I stroking my ego or am I getting better? Because at some point, I'm giving myself false platitudes by being faster than people who are maybe that's their very first. By the way, some of those people in that group are that's their very first time on a motorcycle or very first time on a
Hmm.
track day. I am there's no accolades in like in being fast. Please take it for what it is here. But now I get to be around other faster people, right? And so I feel like I can't help but get faster as well. Now I'm gonna have to, eat some humble pie, and that's part of it.
Hmm.
And that's part of growth, right? But I love that I'm gonna get to be around these people.
So there's a lesson that I just thought that came out when you were saying this. One, in order for you to get out of this novice class, get into an immediate, you gotta let go of your ego. You gotta set the ego aside because otherwise the ego is gonna keep you there and not allow you to progress to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm gonna be the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, right? Now you get into the intermediate, you again gonna have to let go of your ego and set it aside because the ego is not gonna let you race in there because you're gonna, I suck, I'm the worst thing ever, I'm the slowest, blah blah blah, and that ego is gonna tell you to the point which you're not gonna be getting out on the track, right? So you're gonna have to set that ego aside in order for you to start racing in the intermediate and building your way up to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So the whole thing on both sides of the aisle, you gotta let go of the ego.
That's it.
So
Dude, that's
awesome.
right. I mean, you gotta. I think this is one thing that I think is important for everybody. Is always, always, always. You know, first of all, and please don't take the like. I know I'm slow. It's just that in the novice group, I just appeared by
Not
contrast
just
as
in
fast.
racing either.
Yeah, yeah. And so like, after intermediate is advanced. And guess what? That's another level up where now you're going to be the slowest person as well. So like just enjoy it. And instead of focusing on you, focus on the development of the skills and the experience. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day anyway. No one's going out, hopefully no one's going out racing just to like, pat their ego. Like I don't think that's the right joy. And that's, by the way, that's not why I ride. It's because like I love getting better. And I love the metaphor and the analogy between like life and business and riding, where like just getting better little bit by little bit and pushing through fear and developing yourself and the skills and like what it means. Like I just can't get enough of it, man.
So I got one more. Man, we could go on this forever, I think. So I got one more for you. Because you mentioned something about enjoying the journey, having the joy in this whole process, right?
Totally.
Does it ever suck? You hate it, sucks. Why am I doing this? Do you ever that enters your mind?
I mean, I'm sure if I were to wipe out, like I might not be happy, or if like I'm doing super slow, or if I'm not doing as well as I think I can do,
Yeah.
like if I'm messing up and I know I could do better, like I'd probably would be disappointed in myself.
Yeah, but you keep going, right? The
Yeah,
point I'm
yeah, yeah.
making here is that as you're going this journey, whatever the entrepreneur journey is going to be,
You
whether
don't give
you are
up.
a
Yeah,
business owner, there'll be times where it's going to suck.
yeah,
Embrace the suck, right? And get through it, because that's going to be really important for you to embrace that suck to get to the next level. I don't know if you ever have you raced yet in rain, or they allow you on rain or no?
I have not. They do though. They have rain tires that you can race, and do those guys still haul like it's and so I have not done that though. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to how it is in the rain. So, but
Yep.
yeah, embrace the suck during those particular moments because they will come. Um,
Absolutely.
so I think that's an important lesson, dude.
Yep.
Well, I mean, keep on racing so we can have more lessons in here and I can poke fun of you a little bit more because I got nothing else to do, I guess. So when it comes to that, so imagine me being on a motorcycle. That'll
Well,
be an
dude, I mean,
interesting sight.
I mean, next episode we'll have lessons on you riding your lawnmower.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Listen, thank you guys. If you're still tuned in right now, thank you for the opportunity to share this stuff. I really hope that you see something here for yourself though. Like other than just us babbling about motorcycles and track days and everything else. Because like, I just feel like there's so many parallels between different things in life and business that like, there's so many lessons we can learn and take and they transfer, the skills transfer. And so I hope you got something out of it. If you did, give us a review, give us a rating, a thumbs up, tell somebody about it. We would love to share this message as well if you saw benefit from it. And we'll hope to see you next week as well. Take care, everyone. Take care.